Welcome to the channel and welcome to this review of Warhammer the Horus Heresy Aeronautica Imperialis, along with the cards that go with them, which GW have very kindly sent me free of charge for your reviewing pleasure. It's going to be a bit of a review, bit of a ramble. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail in the books because of what's in the book, because most of it is lifted and shifted from other publications. So I'm going to whip through it. I'm going to tell you what's different, what's specific about the Horus Heresy side of things, because there are some bits that are different that I haven't seen in other publications. And we have an errant cat wandering across the screen, and the bits, how they handle the loyalists and traitors and that side of things. So, from the start, we've got some gumph about air war in the 31st millennium. Then we've got some art on Xiphon interceptors from different legions. Some narrative on notable events. More art on legion stuff. Now there appears to be a picture of what looks like might be a boxed set. It's a map I don't recognise. Maybe there's a boxed set coming. It's got thunderbolts and it's got Astartes on it and an industrial type map. I don't recall there being an Imperial versus Imperial map, so maybe there is a box on its way. The rules pretty similar. We've got let me go pick a direction, but don't stop. Right, okay. The rules don't seem to have fundamentally changed in this book. We've still got the turn summary being choose maneuvers, initiatives, tailing fire, movement, firing, and end phase. It looks like we've got all of the rules from the various different supplements gathered in one place. So we've got things on autonomous weapons, landing and taking off, autonomous weapons, ground attack, bombing runs, strafing runs, air to ground fire, all that good stuff. We've got rules. We've got the section on ending the game. There's how many pages is this? There's a page of narrative, which is about 16 pages long. The story of a fight over the Forge world of Vanaheim, which looks quite interesting. That map that was on the picture of the what looks like a box set, that looked like it could be a Forge world, so maybe there is something coming, or at one time something was planned and hasn't made it. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. We've got rules for scenarios, standard stuff, weather, night fighting, ground targets, terrain height. What is interesting that I don't believe I've seen before, there's two ways of playing, or two sort of layers. There's fighting at low altitude, and basically the premise here is that you put terrain on the map in hexes. I imagine it would be epic scale terrain from Titanicus, and you can't fly over or see or shoot through it, because you're having to stay low. So your altitude can only go so high, and that's the same as the height of a lot of the buildings. I guess this sort of represents giving ground support to other troops, or there being sort of covering fire, stopping you going above a certain height. And then rules for how to manage sort of maneuvering around buildings and that sort of stuff, which is cool. Then there is the notion of the rolling area of engagement. Now, GW did a boxed game a few years back called Speed Freaks, and one of the things I remember was when we had all the guys around, that used a rolling area of engagement. So you had like 4 boards, and as you got to the edge of the front board, you took the rear board and added it on, and the cars that were at the back got sort of left behind. Similar sort of thing with the rolling areas of engagement. So you can potentially outrun your opponents. Slow planes can be outrun. Yeah, the leading section of the trailing section, you keep moving them forward. Let me see if there's anything particular about that. 3 smaller map sections, 12 by 12 hex squares. You've got the leading section of the trailing section. When an aircraft travelling through the leading section reaches the leading edge, you clear the trailing section of any aircraft, terrain and ground defences, and you pick it up and move it to the front. Then that section becomes the leading section. Aircraft that are on the trailing section, when it comes off, have fallen behind. You get to do a dice roll. They might come back in later as reinforcements. They might not, as they sort of climb and try and dive back in. Then some bits about how it interacts with terrain in if you're doing low altitude as well. On rolling areas of engagement, so that's really cool. We've got how many missions do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 missions. They look like they're a summary from different books. The dogfight, the bombing mission, troop landing, Sky Fortress attack. I don't believe I've seen. It's been a while since I've looked at in detail at any of the books other than Rin's War. Recently filmed part 3 of Rin's War with the Claw. That should be going on to YouTube at some point in the not too distant future. Canyon Attack Run, Bandits Over the River. I think that's a Rin's World one. The Straggler, that's definitely a Rin's World one. Search and Rescue, got a bit more artwork. Then we are on to Squadron Lists. There's a few special rules here. I don't think I've seen all of them before. Rocket boosters can choose to disengage from any point of the area of engagement rather than just the table edge if they're travelling at altitude 5. Transport aircraft people should be familiar with. Valuable cargo. Sorry, let me just climb up onto the laptop, which is on a thing. Just checking she hasn't done anything untoward. Jump troops. So this is where instead of landing to disembark the troops, you have to sort of you have to fly over the deployment zone. So imagine sort of Space Marine, Assault Marines, and depending on the altitude and speed that you're travelling, you have to make a test, and depending on those two factors, depends on how successful they are at landing. Stealth, I don't think I've seen before. Due to their small size, high speed, or advanced cloaking systems, some aircraft can appear almost invisible to ground defences. I actually think this might have been in the Eldar one. Such aircraft can prove difficult to see, blah blah blah. Any weapon with ground-to-air fire special rule targeting an aircraft with this rule must reduce their effective altitude by X, X being the value of stealth, so it's harder to hit. And Jink. Okay, I know what that did is 7th ed 40k. Oh yes, I have seen this before as well. When you're being shot at, it lets you move a hex in any direction, presumably to try and get out of range or firing arcs, or out of to change the range category that you're in. Okay, so here's where it gets. Here's the. Can't even talk. Here's the marine stuff. So Legiones Astartes, and it's mainly around the upgrades. There are generic upgrades. Having a tech marine on board can let you repair during the end phase on a 5+ once per game. For each point of lost structure, roll a d6. Infrared targeting gets around from bad night fighting and bad weather. Armoured cockpit is a 6+ shrug. Infernum Halo launcher, that's your standard ignore missile damage on a 6. And ceramite plating makes extra damage trigger less easily. So if you're triggering extra damage on a wound roll of 5+, and you had ceramite plating, it would instead trigger on a 6+. So that's the generic stuff. Most of those seem pretty familiar. Right, Legion specific. Each Legion, you've got an upgrade, a specific upgrade. There's a Tracer Legion page, and there is a Loyalist Legion page. Dark Angels, Ravenwing Veteran, Ravenwing Veteran. Once per game, you get to do a dice reroll. You must reroll all the dice. White Scars, Swift of Wing. Gains the Jink special rule. Space Wolves, Peerless Hunter. Adds 2 to the FPR characteristic of any weapon with an ammo characteristic of unlimited when resolving tailing fire. More shooty when tailing fire. Imperial Fist, Aegis Pilot. +1 structure point. Blood Angels, Master of the Skies. Once per game, this aircraft may increase or decrease its current speed by an amount less than or equal to twice its throttle value. So if you have a throttle of 2 once per game, you can throttle up or down by up to 4. Yowzers. Iron Hands, Iron Father. Once per game, you may attempt to repair. Roll a d6 in the end phase for each lost structure point. On a 4+, a single point of structure is repaired. This replaces the Tech Marine upgrade. So it's slightly more expensive than the Tech Marine upgrade, but only slightly. Ultramarines, Alaris Pilot. Aircraft is piloted by an Alaris pilot. Once per game, when the aircraft is activated during the movement phase, it may discard its maneuver token and immediately choose another maneuver. Quick, paint the blue! Salamanders. Counters having tempered plating. Counters having the ceramite plating upgrade. In addition, ignore any extra damage from a single enemy weapon. Raven Guard, Shadowbird. Gains the stealth -1 rule. They're the Loyalists. The Traitors, Emperor's Children, Phoenix Pilot. Is an ace, so gets a reroll. In addition, the ace maneuver characteristic on the aircraft is upgraded by 1. Ah, right. Okay, so I was just trying to see why it was the same cost as the Ravenwing one, but better. I've missed something on the Ravenwing one for Dark Angels. You can give that to all your planes if you want to. You're not restricted to just one. Ravenwing. Iron Warriors, Hullbreaker Missiles. Aircraft with this upgrade improves the extra damage characteristic of its cracked missiles, and then a big list of weapons by 1. So they have extra damage on a 5+. Big list of weapons. It looks like mostly missiles. Night Lord's Anguish engines. Okay. An aircraft within 3 hexes of 1 or more enemy aircraft reduces its handling characteristic by 1. Terror is a weapon of the Night Lords use extensively, and many of its aircraft engines are modified to sound like distorted screams. Okay, maybe. World Eaters Red Hunger. Once per game during the firing phase, may add 1 to the result of all hit rolls when firing at short range. Okay, paint them red. Death Guard Shroud of Barbarous. Once per game after moving the aircraft, it can activate the Shroud of Barbarous. Until the end of the round, cannot be targeted by enemy aircraft or ground defences. That's quite nice. Thousand Suns, the Corvidae Initiate. This is the joint most expensive one on the page. If night fighting or bad weather are in use, the aircraft may fire at medium range without reducing the number of firepower dice rolled. So that's very much similar to the infrared stuff. In addition, once per game, it can ignore the -1 hit modifier when making an attack against an enemy aircraft at an altitude 1 higher or lower than its own. Okay. Sons of Horus, the War Master's Chosen. Once per game, a force that contains this aircraft may re-roll the dice when rolling for initiative. Okay, yeah, that kind of works. I like that. Word Bearers, Possessed Pilot. Once per game during the firing phase, pilot may increase the short and or medium range of its weapons by 2 hexes. Long range does not change. Woo. And last, but by no means least, Alpha Legion, Saki Pilot. Sachi? S-A-C-I-I. Saki. This aircraft is piloted by a veteran infamous for their ability to confuse and misdirect opposing aircraft. After both sides have deployed their forces, this aircraft may be redeployed, following the deployment rules in the scenario. I like that. Although I'm not quite sure how you can sneak through a cloud, but I like it. Okay, so the Xiphon Interceptor, Storm Eagle Assault Craft, and Fire Raptor, and Thunderhawk, they all seem to be pretty similar to what they are in the Space Marine book. Storm Eagle. What was the really big one? Stormhawk? I don't know. There was a really big plane they used, or what, in the Heresy, in the Great Crusade. Can't remember what it was. Storm Talon? No. Yes? No? I can't remember. Then we've got the Divisio Aeronautica, which are basically all of the Imperial Navy ships. The upgrades look fairly standard: infrared targeting, armoured cockpit, flares and chaff launchers, ejector seats. We've got Thunderbolt, Thunderbolt Fury, Avenger Strike, Avenger Lightning, Marauders, lots of Marauders, Hydra Flak batteries. Then we have at the very end, we have the Legio Custodes Ares gunship. I haven't seen this before. I wasn't aware of this. Which is 43 points. Oh! Structure 5, min speed 0, so it can hover. Ace maneuvers 1 through 5, throttle 2, max speed 5, max altitude 5. But its guns look horrific. Heavy blaze cannon 460, 4+ on the damage and extra damage on a 5+. Magna blaze cannon 343, 3+ extra damage on 4+. I mean, ouch. and can take some pretty nasty looking missiles as well. Now I wonder if the card for that is in one of these decks. So that's the book. That's it in the book. These decks, Thunderhawk gunship. So in the Legiones Astartes one, you've got a bunch of aircraft upgrades, weapon cards, ground defense cards, and you do get one of the Legion specific cards, one of each Legion as well, which is nice. I can't see the Custodes one in here, which is a shame. Maybe it's in this one. What have we got in this? Thunderbolts, Marauders, Lightnings, Avengers, Arvis. Bunch of upgrade cards. We'll open this and see if it's in there. I want to know. I want to know if it's in there. 1 minute. Don't try this at home. Is it in this pack? Marauder, Arvis Lighter, Lightning, 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 Avenger, Marauder, Marauder, Thunderbolt, 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 and Lightning. Very, very frightening. No, not in this pack. Now the decks, the boxes aren't the same as the old ones, the previous ones. The box is much more lightweight. It's more akin to the stratagem cards that you get in 40k rather than the big sturdy lid and base thing. Maybe the Custodes one is in here. Didn't anticipate opening these, otherwise I'd have done them in advance and wouldn't be panicking with the camera on. Here we go, here we go. Opening the thing for the meat inside, and by meat I mean Thunderhawk, Fire Raptor, Storm Eagle, Xiphon, Xiphon. No, okay, that is a shame. The Custodes playing in the book is not in these decks of cards. I doubt they'll do a set just for one Custodian vehicle, so it looks like we do without that card. Okay, well, it's nothing particularly new, but they have brought a lot of things into one place, and it's kind of nice they've just, I mean, they didn't have to, obviously they're trying to sell stuff, and, you know, sending it to me as to review for you as a form of advertising, which is why I have to say I've got it for free at the start, but I can see if you're getting into the Horus Heresy, this would be a really nice way of just mixing it up a little bit and doing some in-between game stuff that can then affect your narrative games. I can see this working quite well. They haven't had to make any new models for it. They've done some special rules, which is nice. Not a huge amount, but it does the job. It certainly does the job. So on that happy note, that concludes this review. Yeah, take care everyone, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.